I got big plans to set up a gold mine and run it my way. We do have a 1,000-ounce goal. This is a big gamble, so me and Faith have to make this work.
The Klondike wind cut through Kevin Beets like a blade, carrying whispers of secrets buried beneath centuries of permafrost. In the shadow of his father's legendary mining empire, Kevin had always been searching for something more than gold, something that would prove he was more than just Tony Beets' son. He had no idea that buried in a forgotten chest, beneath layers of camp debris, lay a discovery that would rewrite everything the world thought it knew about the frozen North. What Kevin was about to uncover wasn't just treasure, it was evidence of a hidden history, a convergence of worlds that should never have met, sealed away by hands that intended it to remain lost forever. The permafrost had kept their secret for centuries, but today it would finally surrender its grip. Smash that like button and subscribe right now. It all began with a single object that would change everything. In the Beets family camp, buried beneath years of forgotten paperwork and rusted mining tools, Kevin stumbled upon a faded parchment tucked into a battered chest. The edges were singed, as if someone once tried to burn it out of existence, but enough remained to spark a fire that couldn't be contained. Geometric lines snaked across the page, not random sketches, but precise shapes that eerily mirrored Yukon's fault lines when matched against modern geological maps. Whoever drew this map had knowledge well beyond the surveyors of the 1800s. And then there were the symbols, some that looked unmistakably Norse, others echoing indigenous pictographs, an impossible fusion of worlds separated by oceans and centuries. When Kevin overlaid the drawing with satellite imagery, something chilling happened. Several landmarks aligned perfectly, too perfect to dismiss as coincidence. Yet when he brought it to Tony Beets, the legendary miner waved it off as fairy tales, Klondike nonsense. But Kevin felt it in his bones. This was never meant to be found. It was meant to stay hidden, locked away until the right set of hands opened it. Determined to uncover the truth, Kevin plunged into research that would consume his every waking moment. In the dusty archives of Dawson City, he unearthed fragments of a forgotten past, miners who disappeared without a trace, their last words claiming they struck ground that hollowed like a drum. Newspaper clippings whispered of caverns bricked shut by hands unknown, buried in silence with no official record acknowledging they ever existed. And then there were the stories passed down by elders, tales of underground rooms where spirits guarded gold so fiercely that intruders never returned. These weren't just legends. Kevin uncovered journals from early prospectors who wrote of metallic thuds echoing from deep below their shafts, as though something unnatural shifted in the earth. Taken together, the accounts wove a chilling pattern. To others, it was superstition. To Kevin, it was evidence, proof that someone deliberately constructed chambers beneath the Yukon and swore they'd never be touched again. But to reach what the map pointed to, Kevin knew he must attempt the impossible. The Klondike permafrost wasn't just frozen earth. It was nature's barricade, a wall of ice stronger than stone, one that could collapse and kill without warning. Yet Kevin designed a daring system unlike anything ever used, a hybrid assault using industrial water cannons to cut, massive heaters to soften permafrost, and deep-core drills to pierce where no man should. The crew protested, warning that one wrong move would flood the entire claim or sink the ground under them. Kevin didn't flinch. To him, permafrost wasn't an obstacle. It was proof that someone intended to hide something worth dying for. He overlaid the parchment against GPS grids, calculating the approach with surgical precision, almost as if the builders themselves laid the chamber along a cosmic alignment. The machinery roared, water blasting, steel biting, and then disaster struck with devastating force. Permafrost collapsed with no warning, swallowing a loader whole, trapping a man in seconds. Chaos exploded as crews scrambled for an emergency rescue. By sheer luck, they pulled the worker out alive, but the site was shaken, machines crippled, morale shattered. To most, it was a warning to stop. To Kevin, it was validation. The chamber wasn't just buried, it was defended, and whoever built it didn't just want to conceal their treasure. They wanted to ensure no one would ever dare to find it. The breakthrough came when excavators ground to a halt, their bucket teeth scraping against something that didn't belong. At first, it looked like boulders, but as Kevin cleared away the frozen gravel, he realized they were staring at a wall, perfectly laid stone blocks, square-edged and interlocked like a puzzle. Geology had no explanation for this. In the Klondike, rock breaks jagged, chaotic, torn by ice and water. This wall was deliberate, stacked with care, and locked, with joints so tight that even after centuries, not a single gap existed. Kevin signaled the heavy machinery to stop immediately. One wrong strike, and the entire structure could collapse, taking with it the secret it was guarding. He ordered the crew to put down their machines and switch to hand tools. The grumbling was instant. These men were miners, not archaeologists, but Kevin wouldn't risk pulverizing history for speed. As they chipped away with chisels and brushes, the true face of the wall emerged. At the center was a circular seal, carved with spirals so deep they almost formed a tunnel of symbols. The design was mesmerizing, part mathematical, part ritualistic. Some spirals aligned with constellations, others echoed patterns found in Norse carvings. But mixed in were marks that resembled indigenous motifs, a blend that should not exist in one place, in one hand. Kevin sent samples of the stone for analysis, and the results returned a shock. These blocks were cut with precision tools that Klondike miners of the 1800s simply didn't possess. The chisel marks looked closer to old-world masonry than frontier rough-cut. Whoever built this didn't just want strength, they wanted permanence. Ground-penetrating radar added the final confirmation. Behind the wall lay a void, vast and hollow, stretching deeper than any mining shaft in the vicinity. The screen outlined a cavern that shouldn't be there, perfectly geometric in shape, hidden like a vault beneath the Yukon ice. The crew gathered in silence. No one doubted now that Kevin had found something beyond gold, beyond mining. Breaking into the chamber proved far more dangerous than they imagined. As they began loosening the seal, the ground suddenly shifted. Soil collapsed on one side of the pit, narrowly missing 2 workers. Kevin realized this wasn't coincidence. The structure was laced with defenses. Ancient engineering revealed itself in the form of wooden beams preserved by permafrost, wedged at angles designed to give way when tampered with. The collapse wasn't an accident. It was a trap. Primitive but devastating, it could bury men alive without mercy. The deeper they advanced, the stranger it became. Instead of random debris, the soil layers looked arranged, timbers crossed deliberately, stones stacked to redirect weight, like a maze of deterrents meant to slow intruders or crush them entirely. Kevin recognized the resemblance to medieval mine defenses, strategies used centuries earlier in Europe to collapse tunnels on invading armies. But this was the Yukon, a land where no such techniques should exist. The men started to whisper. Words like curse passed from lip to lip. They muttered that the chamber was sealed for a reason, that spirits guard what lies below, that those who dig will pay. These weren't rookie miners. They'd survived avalanches, floods, and machinery fires without fear. But what they faced now was different. Even hardened crew threatened to walk, claiming the ground itself wanted them gone. Kevin stood alone in the pit, staring at the seal, feeling the weight of every legend he once dismissed. He knew if they quit now, the chamber would vanish back into myth. But if they continued, there was no telling what price they'd pay. Kevin made the call that would change everything. Plasma cutters were brought in, their beams sparking as they sliced through the final iron-hard band, holding the seal in place. The air grew tense, every hiss of the cutter sounding like a warning. Then, with a deafening crack, the seal gave way. The chamber exhaled for the first time in centuries, a rush of air carrying the scent of cedar wood, mixed with something metallic, something old. The crew instinctively stepped back, eyes wide, as though they'd just broken open the lungs of history itself. Floodlights were lowered into the breach. What they revealed stunned even Kevin. The chamber extended into vaulted arcs, its ceiling supported by hand-hewn timbers thicker than railroad ties, still standing strong despite the centuries. Whoever built this did not just dig a hole. They engineered a cathedral beneath the permafrost. Every beam, every joint suggested immense planning, as if the builders meant this place to outlast civilizations. At the chamber's base lay mounds of gravel, heaped unnaturally, almost like a cover. But even in the harsh light, flecks glistened from beneath the false fill. Gold, dust sparkling like stars, glittering from every crack. The miners leaned closer, their instincts screaming profit, but Kevin raised his hand sharply. This was no mining site. This was something else. He ordered silence, his voice low but commanding. And for the first time, his men obeyed without protest. The tone had shifted. This wasn't extraction anymore. It was revelation. They weren't digging for gold. They were standing in the threshold of history. The chamber hummed with an eerie stillness. Every eye searched the shadows. Every breath hung heavy. In that moment, the crew knew the truth. This find was not random. It was not an accident of geology or chance. It was intentional, an engineered vault, hidden with purpose, preserved with obsession, meant to withstand time itself. The gold glimmered, but more powerful than greed was the realization that they'd uncovered something meant to stay buried forever. What lay beneath the gravel would shatter every assumption they held about the treasure. Beneath the loose fill, shovels struck against something harder than stone. The men dug carefully, clearing layer after layer until wooden edges emerged, crates stacked and reinforced with iron bands that had rusted to a blood-red patina. Their surfaces were charred, scorched as though they'd once been through fire. Kevin's hands trembled as he brushed away the last of the gravel. With a crowbar, he pried open the first crate. For a moment, there was silence, then a collective gasp as gold burst into the lamplight. Not dust, not flakes, nuggets the size of fists, tumbling across the chamber floor with a sound heavier than stone. Hardened miners, who had handled ounces of gold in their lifetimes, staggered backward at the sight of pounds upon pounds spilling out like a river. Coins scattered among the nuggets, but these weren't the simple stamped tokens of the Klondike era. Some bore European crests, crowns, shields, Latin inscriptions, while others were marked with symbols no one could recognize. The designs seemed older, archaic, almost alien to anyone trained in modern numismatics. They spanned eras and continents, a collection that had no logical explanation for being buried together in the Yukon wilderness. And it wasn't just coins. Rusted sabers with ornate hilts lay beside them, their steel still gleaming beneath corrosion. Trade beads glimmered with polished colors, the kind used in exchanges centuries before the gold rush. Religious relics, crosses of unusual design, fragments of chalices, rested in the same crates as gold nuggets, as if cultures that never should have met left offerings in a single vault. The tally rose quickly. By Kevin's estimate, the gold alone could fetch close to $90 million, but even that staggering number failed to capture the true weight of the find. The artifacts represented something beyond monetary value. They were evidence of a convergence of worlds, histories colliding in one place. Archaeologists would fight to claim it as heritage. Governments would swoop in to seize it. Then the crew uncovered something that defied all explanation. From beneath another mound of gravel emerged a bundle wrapped in oilskin. Kevin peeled it back, revealing scrolls stiff with age. The ink had faded, but enough remained to spark immediate fascination. The script was bizarre. Half runic, half pictographic, a fusion of writing systems that should never have crossed paths. Some characters resembled Norse carvings, others indigenous etchings, arranged together in flowing lines that suggested a shared language born in secrecy. Scholars would argue for years whether this was proof of contact, but in the chamber, no one doubted they were holding something written by hands determined to leave behind a hidden message. Beside the scrolls rested carved bone idols, figures neither fully human nor entirely animal. Horns sprouted from human skulls, wings from torsos, claws where hands should be. Their expressions were grim, watchful, almost alive under the flicker of the lights. To the crew, they looked like guardians, silent sentinels placed to watch over the gold. Superstitions spread quickly. Some men refused to touch them, muttering that taking the idols would invite disaster. The next discovery only deepened the unease. A compass, ancient in design but still intact, was pulled from a shattered crate. Its needle didn't point north. Instead, it pulled downward, unwavering, as if magnetized to something buried even deeper beneath the chamber. Kevin studied it in disbelief. Was this a guide, a tool meant to lead explorers to a second vault hidden below the first? Or was it a warning pointing toward depths never meant to be disturbed? Samples of the artifacts revealed secrets that challenged everything they thought they knew. Metallurgical readings revealed alloys no Klondike miner could have forged, metals combined in ways that suggested advanced smelting techniques unknown to the region. Some items dated back centuries before the gold rush, before European settlement of the Yukon. Kevin felt a shiver as realization set in. This chamber was not a stash of stolen wealth, not the secret hoard of a single miner. It was a deposit, a convergence point, where multiple cultures left behind treasures deliberately, as though adding to a collective vault meant to stand against time. But time doesn't allow secrets to stay buried. Word leaked. Within days, rival miners swarmed the claim, circling like wolves. They demanded access, accusing Kevin of hoarding what should be. Shared government authorities soon arrived, armed not with shovels, but with laws. They argued that artifacts of cultural significance belonged to the public, not to a private claim. Papers were waved, threats were made, archaeologists pushed to seize the chamber under Heritage Acts, stripping the Beets family of legal control. Tony Beets raged against them. To him, the gold belonged to the claim, to his blood, sweat, and machinery that broke the ground open. But Kevin knew the truth was more complicated. They hadn't just found gold, they'd uncovered a vault that rewrote history. Inside the camp, the tension boiled over. Some of Kevin's men whispered about taking their cut and vanishing before the government locked everything down. Others warned that smuggling artifacts could mean prison sentences that no amount of gold could buy freedom from. Rumors of betrayal coiled through the night air. Kevin felt the mutiny rising in his own ranks. He made his stand. Gathering the crew in the glow of floodlights, he spoke not as a miner chasing ounces, but as a guardian of something larger. They would not strip the chamber for greed. They would not desecrate the find for short-term gain. Kevin insisted they protect the integrity of what they'd uncovered, even if it meant risking the fortune, risking the claim, even risking the Beets empire itself. Yet the chamber wasn't finished revealing its secrets. The walls, once thought bare stone, began to reveal their mysteries under lantern light and careful brushing. In the flickering glow, inscriptions stretched across the curved surfaces, rows of chiseled symbols carved deep into the rock. At first, the markings appeared ornamental, but when compared with the strange parchment recovered earlier, the connection became undeniable. Linguists on site confirmed it. The parchment was no mere treasure map. It was part of a code, a language of warnings, etched into both paper and stone. Rough translations formed sentences chilling in their simplicity. Betrayers will be buried. Gold is death. The words rippled through the crew like a cold wind. Suddenly, the find didn't feel like triumph. It felt like trespass. The spirals, the runes, the pictographs, they lined up into a system that seemed designed less to guide than to ward off, a ritual script meant to outlast centuries. And as silence fell, the chamber itself seemed to respond. From tunnels that extended beyond the torchlight came faint metallic groans, vibrations in the earth as if some hidden mechanism, gears, chains, or doors, still lingered in motion beneath layers of permafrost. No one dared call it imagination. The echoes were too real, too regular. Whispers spread that this was not a vault at all, but merely the entrance to a network larger and deeper, a honeycomb of chambers hidden below the Yukon's frozen hills. The realization shifted the mood entirely. What began as a payday was now a burden. Crew members who once bragged about gold tonnage fell silent, unwilling to meet one another's eyes. The legends about curses, once dismissed as tavern talk, suddenly weighed heavier. Have they unearthed, not fortune, but a forbidden threshold? Kevin felt the change keenly. The gold was theirs, but the cost may be a shadow that follows them for life. Then the mountain made its final, devastating move. Without warning, a thunderous crack ripped through the chamber. Dust stormed into the air as a section of wall gave way, burying half the chamber beneath a cascade of earth and stone. Crates vanished beneath tons of debris, artifacts lost forever in seconds. Men scrambled for safety, coughing through choking clouds, their floodlights bouncing wildly. When the ground stilled, silence hung over what had become a tomb within a tomb. Attempts to clear the collapse were futile. Heavy machinery was useless in the confined underground spaces, and each strike threatened to bring down more of the ceiling. Experts warned that pressing deeper could destabilize the entire hillside, entombing not just the chamber, but everyone inside. Kevin faced an impossible choice: secure the fortune they had already uncovered, or risk lives and the entire Beets empire chasing what might lie beyond. The weight of the decision crushed him. $90 million in gold already sat within reach, stacked in crates, ready to be moved. But what if the collapse hid something greater? an inner vault, the true heart of the mystery. To walk away might mean leaving behind the greatest treasure the Yukon had ever held. Yet to press forward might mean no one lived to tell the tale. Kevin steeled himself. He ordered the crew to withdraw, to secure what was known, rather than gamble on shadows. The deeper mysteries would remain untouched. For now. What followed was a scene more like a military operation than a mining job. Under armed escort, the Beets family began the painstaking removal of crates, artifacts, and relics. Trucks rolled under cover of darkness, their cargo concealed, 'neath tarps, guarded by men who trusted no one. Word had spread too far. Rivals and officials hovered like vultures. The operation had to remain quiet, fast, and ruthless. But secrecy was imperfect. Select relics, scrolls, idols, and the downward-pointing compass slipped away into the hands of specialists abroad, smuggled discreetly to laboratories and private collections. In hushed academic circles, whispers ignited about their origins, but the public remained in the dark. Official reports dismissed the find as routine mining spoil. The truth became blurred, hidden beneath layers of red tape, secrecy, and rumor. The chamber itself was left behind, deliberately reburied under rock and permafrost. Its full scope was never charted. Its echoes, its warnings, and its unexplored passages remained sealed. By choice or by fate, the story was left unfinished, feeding myth rather than closing it. Kevin walked away not only with gold, but with legend. His name burned into Klondike lore. He was no longer merely Tony Beets' son, no longer just a miner. He was both prospector and mythmaker, the man who uncovered a vault that the world was never meant to see. And yet, the whispers continue to grow louder. If one chamber could hold $90 million in gold, what labyrinth might lie hidden deeper in the Yukon? How many vaults still sleep beneath the frozen ground, waiting for the right or the wrong hands to pry them open? Kevin Beets has ignited a legend that will not die, and the permafrost keeps its secrets still, guarding mysteries that may be far greater than anyone dares to imagine.